Hello all. So today we will be discussing with the ratio analysis chapter. So chapter number 5. Okay. So basically we have discussed in the classes the tools for analyzing the financial statement. So which are the tools that we have already discussed? The comparative financial statement where there are 2 years data which will be compared and the analysis of the balance sheet, analysis of the income statement was done. And one more was the common size financial statement. Out of this also the balance sheets analysis and the income statement was done. The trend analysis, which was majorly indicated as the index number, where you was analyzing the financial statement in order to reveal the trend of an item through the passage of time, which is used to indicate the financial statement, how the financial statement goes on, and how well the time passes, how well the sales changes, or how well the operating profit changes, or how well the number of items which is going to appear, the stock changes, or it may be a profit changes, which we have discussed in the trend analysis. So today we will be learning about the ratio analysis. So I'll tell you later. Here, in the case of ratio analysis, the relationship which will be found out between the two values. Okay. In the case of comparative, common size, and the trend analysis also, we used to compare the data. Here in the ratio analysis also, the relationship which will be found out between the two values. Clear? So we'll be also discuss further there. So one more is DuPont analysis. So what actually this is not there for your syllabus, but for the information, DuPont analysis is one of the model which is basically for the financial ratio, which is based on return on equity ratio. So what is return on equity ratio, and what is the purpose of usages which is used to analyze, especially this DuPont analysis is used to analyze the company's ability, okay, and to increase its return on equity, to analyze how well the company can perform, or how well the company is able to perform and increase its equity or return on equity, will be analyzed with this analysis of financial statement. Okay. So what is DuPont analysis? DuPont analysis especially used to analyze the company's ability. So there also it was used to analyze the company's ability only. But here one more is, it is going to increase the return on equity. In simple terms, how company can increase the return for the investor will be studied in the case of DuPont analysis. And fund flow statement and the cash flow statement. In the case of fund flow statement, all the transactions which were considered, and in the case of cash flow statement, only the cash items were used to considered and analysis used to be made. And what is this economic value added? Economic value added is nothing but, especially it is to estimate the firm's economic profit. Here, economic value added especially introduced to identify the firm's economic profit. So by the term economic value added, so how can you identify the economic profit? It is identified by net profit, which will be deducted from the capital changes, which is raising from the capital. Okay. So whatever the capital that is going to be raised out of the firm's capital, irrespective of the debt, irrespective of the types of equity, so which will be deducted from the net profit. So you are going to arrive with the economic value added. Clear? Economic value added, simply the analysis of financial statement which was introduced to find out the firm's economic profit. Clear? And what is balance scorecard? Balance scorecard by the term, which is going to be called as one of the performance metric. Okay. So what actually this performance metric is? Performance metric is especially used to understand and study, and also to identify and improve the control of the business, various with the functions and resulting the outcomes. So which means which is going to be used to identify, improve, and also to control a business over and various functions, which is going to result the outcomes. Okay, which is simply nothing but it is going to understand how well the performance, whether the firm's performance is good or whether the firm performance is bad, or whether it is going to be a stable, will be understood with the balance scorecard. Clear? So these are the tools for analysis of the financial statement. So out of this, for your syllabus, you are having with the comparative financial statement, common size financial statement, trend analysis, ratio analysis that we'll be discussing, fund flow as well as the cash flow statement for your syllabus. Clear? So we will go for what actually the meaning of ratio analysis, and we shall see today. So what are the formulas pertaining to find outing the ratio analysis? Kinds of formula that we are going to discuss. So what is actually ratio? Ratio is an expression of relation between two numerical values. So it is going to express the in the terms of accounting only. So which is going to be understood and to find out the relationship between the two numbers. It may be, take an example, there is a current assets and the current liability. It is going to estimate and find out the ratio between the current assets and the current liability, irrespective of the assets or irrespective of the liability, which is going to analyze, which is going to state which ratio is higher or which ratio is decreasing, and what improvement that can be found out and what improvement that can be done, whether it is increasing or whether it is decreasing. For that reason, ratio analysis is used. A particular field and particular field improvement can be done with the help of ratio analysis. Whereas in the case of fund flow and the cash flow, in order to differentiate, there was no particular field. There was interest to be shown and the improvement was done. It was pulled together and all the items were used to recorded in the fund flow and the cash flow, and you will be suggesting whether the firm is increasing with the fund from operation or whether the firm is getting the loss. That was used to just identifying it. But here in the case of ratio analysis, it is purely identifying in a particular field whether how well the company can perform or how well the company can pay debts. It may be a short-term debt or it may be a long-term debt, will be analyzed with this ratio analysis concept. Clear? I hope you got the idea. So ratio analysis is simply nothing but to identify what are the company's ability to pay its debts. Okay. So that will be analyzed with the help of this analysis of the ratios. Find outing the ratio and identifying and rectifying the errors, then analyzing the situations and giving the result on interpreting the results will be implied with the case of ratio analysis. So here in the case of ratio analysis, which can be understood as the process of 3 C's. So which are the 3 C's we will learn? So it is going to calculate the accounting ratios and also the comparisons of the calculated ratio with the ideal or a earlier period ratio or competitors ratio or industry average ratio, and also it includes conclude about the performance of the business entrepreneurs. So this is how the process of 3 C's goes on with the ratio analysis. First you will find out the accounting ratio, then there will be a comparing activity which is going to happen with the ideal ratio and with the earlier ratio or with the competitors ratio, and then you are going to give some certain suggestions based on the performance which is being made by the firm. Clear? Next, so we shall see accounting ratio and certain the types and meanings and how the calculation goes on with this capital, certain accounting ratios. Basically here you will be learning about 4 accounting ratios. One is liquidity ratio, One is capital structure ratio. Other one is activity or turnover ratio, profitability or performance ratio. Okay. So we will see first with the liquidity ratio. First, we'll move on with the liquidity ratio and make it as very important. Account these four. So what is liquidity ratio? So liquidity ratio is nothing but it is the ratio which is used to measure the short-term solvency of a business enterprise. Okay, in simple terms, we will understand what is liquidity ratio is. So liquidity ratio is nothing but the ability of the company to meet its financial obligations. Okay, whenever that is going to occur it as a due, whenever it is going to arrive it as a due, how well the company can pay its debts or pay its short-term solvency to the in the terms of any, if it is any debt arises, how well the company meet its obligation to pay its debts earlier as soon as it is going to end it, how well the company is going to pay. So that will be studied in the liquidity ratio. By the term itself it is liquidity. Okay, so how well the company can pay its debts to the parties and meet its financial obligations will be studied in the case of liquidity ratio. Okay, so the same meaning here. It is the measure the short-term solvency of the business enterprise, and also it is the ability of the business enterprise in meeting, that is how well the company is going to pay debts to its short-term liability. And there are the liquidity ratio includes the following. So the formula to calculate the liquidity ratio has three kinds. One is the current ratio, other one is quick ratio or liquid ratio, and it is also called as the acid test ratio. Other one is cash ratio or absolute liquid ratio. Clear? So I'll analyze this first, then I'll tell you what exactly this current ratio and other things is. So ratio, these are the kinds of ratio, meaning we will discuss, and also the formula we will discuss, and the inclusion we will discuss, and ideal ratio. So before moving to anything, we shall see what actually this ideal ratio is. So ideal ratio is nothing but it is a stark indication of financial soundness of a business concern. Okay, what is ideal ratio? Ideal ratio just identifies how well the firm is making a sound, or how well the firm is performing with its the current assets or with its current liability will be analyzed with the help of the ideal ratio. And it also shows the outline indication. Okay, so it is just showing the outline indication of the financial soundness of the business concern. So we shall see now what is current ratio and what is a formula to calculate the current ratio. So meaning of calculating the current ratio, it refers to the ratio between the current assets and the current liability. The current ratio analyzes the ratio which will be indicated between the current assets and the current liability. So which is nothing but the current assets will be divided with the current liability. So what are the current assets includes here? So all the current assets which is going to be included will appear here. Current assets includes the inventories, receivables, cash and bank balance, accruals, and marketable security, and the prepaid expenses. So the current liability include the creditors, short-term loans, bank, overdraft, outstanding expenses, incomes received in advance, and the provisions. And what is the ideal ratio? I told you what is ideal ratio. Ideal ratio is nothing but it is a stark or it is a outline indication of the financial soundness, how well the company is going to increase its efficiency, or how well the company is making stability in the organization. So it is current assets is 2, which gives the ideal ratio for the current assets moves on with the 2, and for the current liability it is 1. Okay. And now quick ratio is also nothing but the liquid ratio, or it is also called as the acid test ratio. So what does actually this is? It refers to the ratio between the liquid assets. Okay. In the case of current assets, it includes all the assets, all the current assets, not only the assets, it is just a current assets. But here it includes only the liquid assets and the liquid liability. So you can also quote it as liquid assets divided by liquid liability, or you can also write it as quick assets divided by quick liability. So what does this quick assets includes? Quick assets includes all the current assets except the stock or the inventory and the prepaid expenses. Clear? The quick assets doesn't include the stock and the prepaid expenses. And what does the quick liability includes? Quick liability includes all the current liability but except the bank overdraft and income, any income received in advance, which is not going to be included under the quick liability. Clear? So what is the ideal ratio which shows with the 1:1 ratio? How the financial fund soundness of a business concern will be analyzed here. So quick assets includes all the current assets other than the stock and the prepaid expenses. Quick liability includes all the current liability other than the bank overdraft and the income received in advance. Now there is the cash ratio. So cash ratio indicates only the short-term liquidity positions when receivables are not considered. And it is also called as the absolute ratio. So cash ratio, which is going to indicate the short-term liquidity positions. So what is the formula to calculate your absolute liquid ratio and the which will be divided with the current liability? So what is absolute liquid ratio? Absolute liquid assets includes the cash and also the marketable security. And its ratio is 0.5 will be compared with the 1. Okay. So absolute liquid assets falls on with the zero point 0.5 and current liability falls on with the 1 is the ideal ratio. Clear with the liquidity ratio? Liquidity ratio especially used to analyze and used to measure the short-term solvency of the business enterprise here. Okay. Now we will move on with the capital structure ratio. So before moving on with the capital structure ratio, we will see what is actually the capital structure is. So capital structure is nothing but the combination of what? Debt and the equity. So capital structure is going to consist with the debt and the equity, which is used by the company to finance its overall growth as well as the operations. For the growth as well as for the overall improvement of the company or overall improvement and the overall operations of the company, you need this capital structure. Irrespective of the capital structure, it may be a debentures or it may be equity share capital or it may be any preference share capital. In order to run or in order to meet the growth, you need this capital structure. So the capital structure ratio we shall see. They refers to the ratio which indicates the capital structure of the company, the risk associated with the capital structure and the long-term solvency position of the company. Listen here. In the case of liquidity ratio, it was only relating to a short-term solvency. So short-term solvency is nothing but which can be met or which can be dealt only within a particular year, within a 1 year. Say for example, 1 year, all the debts should be cleared. But the capital structure is it is going to meet with the long-term solvency position of the company. The capital ratio is broadly classified into two categories. One is leverage ratio, other one is the coverage ratio. Okay. So what is leverage ratio? Leverage ratio is going to indicate the pattern of capital structure. So what is pattern of capital structure? Pattern of capital structure is nothing but irrespective of it is purchased from the equity share capital, or it is from the proprietor's capital, or it is from the debt or the debentures. And the extent of risk associated with the capital structure will be analyzed with the leverage ratio. These two are the very important here. Leverage ratio identifies the pattern of capital structure and also what is the risk associated with these capital structure will be analyzed with the leverage ratio. So below the leverage ratio, there are four kinds. One is the proprietary ratio, other one is the debt equity ratio, capital gearing ratio, and the financial leverage. So financial leverage you have already learned in the fourth semester, that is calculating the EBIT, that is operating profit, which will be compared with earnings before tax. Operating as well as the financial leverage, which we have learned, combined leverage ratio. So the same formula goes on with this, okay? So we shall see here the proprietary ratio. So proprietary ratio is indicates due to the extent to which the assets are funded out of the owner's fund. So wherever there is only the shareholders fund which will be digged out, only that will be considered in the case of proprietary ratio. So total assets will be compared with the shareholders fund. So what is shareholders fund here is, shareholders fund will be included with the share capital plus other equity minus miscellaneous expenses and the losses. So that will be deducted, and there is no ideal ratio here because as it is a proprietary ratio, which is the main owner's capital ratio, or it is a owner's fund, you don't get any ideal ratio. Okay, because they are the real investors and you don't want to find out again what is the financial soundness out of them. So for that reason, you don't get any ideal ratio for the proprietary ratio. Next one is the debt equity ratio. So debt equity ratio indicates the proportion of the debt to equity. So debt will be compared with the equity and find out whether there is any high risk or whether there is no risk in the business person. The higher number of indicates the higher risk for the company. So debt will be compared with the equity. So what does debt includes? Debt includes the secured loans and the unsecured loans, which all are the long-term solvency. So equity includes the short-term capital plus other equity, which will be deducted with miscellaneous expenses and the losses, same as here, shareholders fund. So debt is invested with the ideal ratio is 2. Equity, the ideal ratio is 1. Capital gearing ratio, it indicates the proportion of funds with the fixed commitments to the shareholders. How? The proportion of funds with the fixed commitments to the shareholders will be analyzed with the capital gearing ratio. So what does that include? It includes the debt plus preference share capital, which will be compared with the equity shareholders fund. So what is equity shareholders fund here? Equity shareholders fund is nothing but equity share capital plus the other equity minus miscellaneous and always remember, whenever there is a share capital, these miscellaneous expenses and the losses will be deducted. Clear? Very important to be noted down. And what is financial leverage? As I told you, especially this financial ratio or the leverage is especially used to measure the extent of financial risk of the company. What is the financial risk? Whether the company can be able to invest or whether the company is suffering with any financial circumstances, that will be analyzed with the financial leverage only. It measures the impact on shareholders, obviously, because the earnings before interest tax will be considered, and along with how well the earnings, that is earnings per share, will be considered here. So for that reason, financial leverage plays a very important role. and it directly impact on the shareholders as well. So what is the formula? Earnings before interest tax, which will be deducted with the earnings before tax. So what is EBIT? Sales minus operating cost. EBIT is nothing but EBIT will be deducted with either the interest on borrowings. Clear? Next. So we have learned with the leverage ratio. Leverage ratio was purely dealt with the pattern of capital structure and the extent of risk associated with the capital structure. So what is capital structure? It may be a debt, or it may be any capital, or it may be any proprietary, or it may be any financial ratio, or it may be any capital gearing ratio. So coverage ratio includes only one, that is it indicates the ability of the company to meet its financial obligation. Wherever you come across this ratio, this word is common. So ability of the company to pay its financial obligations, to meet its financial obligation, or to meet its current obligations. So under the coverage ratio, there is an interest coverage ratio. So which is going to indicate or the company ability to pay the companies paying interest on debt and potential for future borrowings. So here EBIT will be compared with only the interest. Okay. Don't get confused with the interest coverage ratio and the financial leverage ratio. Clear? So EBIT is nothing but operating minus profits. So there will not be any ideal ratio. So further, you don't have any ideal ratio. So what is activity or turnover ratio? So activity is nothing but it is going to measure the level of activity in the business and efficiency of the assets. The various turnover ratio are explained in the following table. So there are also the activity and the turnover ratio. So what are the activity of the in the business, whether purchasing or whether any sale activity? So that is the activity or turnover ratio which will be discussed. Sales turnover is nothing but the sales ratio which will be discussed. So total assets to turnover ratio, which is going to indicate the efficiency of managing the assets of the firm. So as the name itself tells, it is a turnover ratio which will be compared with the total assets. So turnover divided by total assets. So what is turnover? Turnover refers to the revenue or any net sales of the firm. Okay. So what is total assets? Total assets includes all the assets other than the miscellaneous expenses and the losses. I told you this is very common everywhere. And fixed assets ratio, turnover will be compared with the fixed assets. It is also how well or how efficient the company can manage its financial assets, which will be discussed here. So fixed assets, by the term, whenever you come across with a fixed asset, the depreciation is going to arrive into picture. So whether to take the depreciation? Yes, it should be taken. Book value of the fixed assets after depreciation. After providing depreciation, you get WDV, that is written down value, or the book value. So that will be taken into consideration here in the net fixed assets. Suppose take some example. There is a sale of rupees 8,000. I mean the cost. The machinery is costing rupees 8,000. It is being sold for written down value, that is depreciation is made on 5,000. So what will be the output here? The 3,000 will be the book value, or it may be the written down value. So that should be taken. That 3,000 will be taken in the case of net fixed assets. And one more, the current assets with the turnover ratio. Turnover with the current assets. The turnover refers to the revenue or the net sales of the firms. These all are majorly indicated in order to find out how efficient or how well the company can manage its turnover by keeping these fixed assets or making with the current assets or with the working capital or with any capital employed. So there is working capital. So turnover will be compared with the working capital assets. So capital turnover ratio, it also indicates the efficiency of the capital employed in the business. So turnover will be compared with the capital employed. So what is capital employed? capital employed is nothing but the share capital plus the other equity and also the non-current liability. Inventory turnover ratio. So inventory, as it is the inventory, it is in the terms of stock. So it indicates rapidity of sales and the efficiency of managing the stock. For raw material, there is three circumstances here. In the case of inventory turnover ratio, for a raw material which is being made, raw material consumed will be compared with the stock, average stock of raw material. So by 2 years, opening stock and the closing stock, which will be divided with the number of years. So you get the average stock. So for work in progress, cost of production will be compared with the average stock of work in progress. And for the finished goods, cost of goods sold will be compared with the average stock of finished goods. Clear? And there is also other four which will be discussed. Debtors turnover ratio. So debtors turnover ratio also indicates how well the firm is going to collect its receivables from the receivables. So net credit sales will be compared with the average accounts receivables. So what is average accounts receivable? Opening balance will be plus with the closing value divided by number of years. Usually they will be giving the 2 years data only. So divided with the 2. So here it is opening value plus closing value. Two values are taken divided with the 2. Average collection period is also same. So it indicates the very important average collection period. For further also, it is very important. Not only after completing the BCom it is important, and after completing the BCom also, you'll be asked with the same question. Average collection period. It indicates the average period granted to customers for payments towards the credit sales. Which means, think that you are a customer, you are given with certain duration, like say for example, 3 months duration to pay or settle your amount, or 2 months duration to settle your amount. So you will be calculating how many number of days or how many number of months you will be collected with the amount, you will be collected with the payments. So that will be analyzed in the case of average collection period. So average accounts receivables divided by net credit sales. As the credit sales indicates, you are obtaining with the credit facility. So which will be delayed, it may be either 2 months or either 3 months. So which will be always compared with the 365 days, the number of days in a year. Credit turnover ratio indicates the velocity of debt payment by the firm. Soundness. Net credit purchase divided by average accounts payable. So here also average accounts payable will be opening with the closing divided by 2. And also there is average payment period. So which is going to indicate with the average accounts payable will be compared with the net credit purchases. See here, it is a net credit sales, average collection period, but average payment period changes with the credit purchases. Then there is a profitability ratio or performance ratio. This formula purely speaks on with the performance of the company, or how well the company can be performed with a better. So here also you don't find any ideal ratio. First is return on investment. So which indicates the profit generated from operations from the total funds employed in the business. So EBIT will be compared with the average capital employed with the 100. So what is actually the capital employed? So capital employed is nothing but at the beginning, and capital employed at the end will be taken into consideration. So capital employed will be equal to share capital. Okay, what actually this capital employed is? Capital employed is, it is also one of the accounting ratios, okay, which is especially used in finance and also to evaluate and the accounting, and to measure the relative profitability of the company, and after taking into account the amount of capital used. So what actually this says is, out of the capital which has already been used by the company, it is going to calculate what is the left out profit. Andre, ಈಗ 1 lakh ರೂಪಿನ ನಾನು ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಒಂದು ಕಂಪನಿಗೆ. ಸೊ 1 lakh ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಒಂದು 50,000 ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕೆಪ್ಟ್ ಅಸೈಡ್ ಆರ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್. Clear? And out of that 50,000, what is the profit that will be created, or what is the profit that will be generated, that will be found out, which is nothing but the capital employed. So what does capital employed includes? It includes the share capital plus the other equity plus the non-current liability. Clear? Return on equity. So profit after tax will be considered, and it is a rate on which the return which will be earned out of the company for equity share capital will be taken into consideration. Okay, so profit after tax which will be compared with average net worth. So now earnings per share. Earnings per share deals with always with the equity shareholders. So what does the equity shareholders get? It is the equity shareholders gets, you can tell it is a dividend, but they are also deals with the earnings per share, earnings available to the shareholders on each share. So what out of the each share invested by the shareholders, what is the earnings that they are going to get will be studied in the case of earnings per share. Very important, even these two. So here profit after tax will be compared with the number of equity shares. Dividend per share, it refers to the amount of dividend paid per share. So per share, out of the per share or value, what is the dividend that is paid by the company will be calculated here. That is total profit distributed to equity shareholders will be compared with the number of equity shares. Gross profit. So gross profit will be compared with the sales, which will be multiplied with 100. Again, the profit volume ratio, PVR ratio, which you have learned in your marginal costing. So PVR ratio is nothing but contribution divided by net sales will be compared with the whole sum, that is 100, ignoring the fixed assets. It is not going to consider the fixed assets because sales minus variable cost gives you the contribution. For that reason, it is not going to consider the PV ratio, doesn't consider the fixed assets. Profit volume ratio. Volume indicates the sales. Clear? Next. Operating ratio, it indicates the percentage of operating cost to sales. So operating cost will be compared with the net sales into 100. So operating, what does operating cost? Operating cost is equals to cost of goods sold plus operating expenses. So operating profit ratio, it is also same. Operating profit into 100 divided with the sales. Net sales will be minus with the operating cost. So what is actually the operating profit? Operating profit is going to depict the profitability of the entity. So what actually the operating profit will be found out by using the operating profit ratio. Whether any improvement needs to be done for the profit, operating profit. So that will be analyzed in the operating profit ratio. Next one is the net profit ratio. So net profit ratio also indicates certain relationship between the top line and the bottom line of income statement. So net profit will be compared with the net sales into 100. Then the price earnings per share, it is also very important, as the name price earnings indicates with the market value. So which shows the relationship between the market value per share and also the earnings per share. So the market share will be given and also the earnings per share will be given. So earnings per share, sometimes you need to calculate, sometimes the problem states with the earnings per share. Clear? So this is about the ratio analysis and along with the formulas. So the same thing will be sent to you people. So go through with the formula clearly. Okay, thank you. Hello all. So in the previous class, we have discussed entirely relating to a ratio analysis and what exactly the pertaining formula which is going to arrive with the ratio analysis. So today we shall see the problems relating to ratio analysis. Okay, we shall move on with this very simple problem. Later we will discuss about the full-fledged problem for the 14 minutes. So here, from the following information, calculate current ratio and quick ratio. You need to calculate the current ratio as well as the quick ratio. So always remember, the current ratio includes all the current assets and all the current liability. Okay. So quick ratio includes all the current assets except the inventory and except the prepaid expenses. Clear? And also the current liability except the bank overdraft. And if any amount received in advance, that will be excluded here. So here there is a cash in hand, cash at bank, stock, sundry debtors, prepaid expenses. So these are the current assets. So take these into consideration for calculating the current ratio. And bills payable is 10,000 and the creditor is 5,000. So current liability give you together, put together give you 15,000. So 45 by 15 gives you 3 by 1. So as it is a ratio, it should be expressed through ratios only. So 3 is to 1 will be the current ratio. So in the previous session, so I told you there is an ideal ratio for each ratio that we are going to compute. So for the current ratio, the ideal ratio was 2 is to 1. So here we got 3 is to 1 as the current ratio, which is indicating the company is well and good. So if you get 2 is to 1 itself, you can indicate that the firm is moving under which means the firm is under a soundness, that is creating a goodness in the company. Here you have got the current ratio at 3 is to 1. So it is still more better in condition for a business concern. So ideal ratio, which is going to indicate the outline, or it is going to indicate the financial soundness of a business concern. So the current ratio, ideal ratio was 2 is to 1. But here you got as 3 is to 1. It is still more better. Okay. So they have also asked you to calculate the quick ratio. So what is quick ratio? Quick ratio includes all the current assets except stock, except prepaid expenses. Okay. So quick assets includes the 45,000 minus 15,000 plus 2,000. So 45,000 minus 17,000 divided by 15,000. It includes all the current liability. So here you got 1.86 is to 1. So what was the ideal ratio? Ideal quick ratio was 1 is to 1. Here you got 1.86 is to 1. So it is also in a good condition. Okay. So now we'll quickly move on to the second problem. So here they've asked you to calculate the current ratio along with the quick ratio. So the same problem. So current ratio includes all the current assets and all the current liability. Quick ratio includes all the current assets except the stock and the prepaid expenses, but it includes all the current liability. So here there is an information, total assets is given, fixed assets is given, current liability is given, stock is given. Okay. So what is the current ratio formula? Current ratio is equals to current assets divided by current liability. But here in the question, they have not specified you directly the current asset. So you need to find out the current asset. The procedure to find out the current assets is total assets information is given. Along with that, fixed assets information is given. So calculate total assets minus fixed assets gives you a current assets. Okay. So 10 lakh is the total assets. Fixed assets is 5 lakh. Current assets will be again 5 lakh. So current ratio is equals to current assets divided by current liability. 5 lakhs divided by 2 lakhs gives you 2.5 is to 1. Okay. So now the quick ratio. Quick ratio includes all the assets, that is current assets, except the stock. Okay. Here, see here, the total assets is 10 lakhs. Out of 10 lakhs, 5 lakhs goes for the fixed assets. Okay. Out of that, 50,000 goes for the stock, which means the current assets includes 5 lakh in the 5 lakh itself, the stock of 50,000 is included. So which gives you 5 lakhs together. Okay. So here in the quick assets, we need to exclude the stock. So current assets was 5 lakhs. You have already computed here. 5 lakhs minus 50,000 of stock. 4,50,000 is the quick asset. So current liability is given directly. So take as it is. Okay. So what was the ideal quick ratio? The ideal quick ratio was 1:1. But here in the question you got 2.25:1. So it is indicated that the firm is still more in a good condition. Okay. And in order to note this also very important, if there is no quick asset is given, you need to find out the quick asset is like this, current assets minus stock. This is how we have calculated here. Quick asset, so current assets minus stock. Clear? Yes. Problem number 3. X Limited has a quick ratio of 3:1. Be very particular. See here the quick ratio is given, and current liability rupees 50,000, stock rupees 25,000. Find out the current assets and current ratio. You need to find out the current assets and the current ratio. You know to find out the current ratio. What is the formula to find out current ratio? Current assets divided by current liability. So have they given current liability is given here. You need to find out the current assets. Clear? So how to find out the current assets? So current assets will be computed by this way. So there is a quick ratio information given. Out of the quick ratio information, you can easily find out the current assets. That is by you will find out the quick assets along with the current liability, somehow it is given. So see here, apply the formula of quick ratio. Quick ratio is equals to quick assets divided by current liability. So what was the quick ratio? We need only the asset. 3 is indicating as asset, that is quick asset. 1 is indicating for the liability, current liability. Okay. So we have already got the one value. So what is the one value? It is 50,000. Clear? Are you able to understand? So here, see here. See, 1 is indicating. 3 is indicating for the current assets. Okay. Assets. And 1 is indicating for the liability. Clear? 1 is already given as 50,000. So 3 you have to find out. So quick ratio is equals to 3 is equals to quick assets. So how do you get the quick assets? Current assets will be minus with the stock. So stock information is given here as 25,000. So minus 25,000 divided by 50,000. So multiply 50,000 into 3 will give you 1,50,000 plus 25,000. So when current assets goes here, it becomes plus. So plus 25,000. So current assets will be 1,75,000. I'll repeat again. See, here there is 50,000. 50,000 into 3 will give you 1,50,000. Okay. So you're taking current assets here. So it becomes the 25,000. So current assets will be 1,75,000. So you got the current assets now. So apply to the current ratio. So current assets is 1,75,000 by 50,000. You got 3.5:1. Okay. So here you can identify here 1,50,000 divided by 50,000. That is quick ratio. So you have find out the current assets here. So what is the current assets? 1,75,000. Out of these current assets, there is also stock which is included. So what is the stock which is included? 25,000 worth of rupees is included here. So deducted, you will get 1,50,000 as a quick asset divided with the current liability, 50,000. So quick ratio you can identify here. Quick ratio is also 3:1. Okay. So in the question also they have given quick ratio 3:1. So 3 stands for the assets and 1 stands for the liability. So ideal ratio of quick ratio was 1:1. But you got here as 3:1. So it is in a better and the good condition or a better position. So we shall see the fourth one. The current assets of the company consists of stock, debtors and cash in the ratio of 4:3:2. See, stock ratio is 4, debtors 3, cash is 2 respectively. Debtors rupees 45,000, current liability rupees 50,000. You need to calculate current assets, stock, cash and current ratio as well as the quick ratio. So see, there is a hint to find out the values. They have asked you to find out the current ratio as well as the quick ratio. What is the formula to calculate the current ratio? Current assets divided by current liability. Quick ratio is quick assets divided by current liability. So by this information, there is also certain pertaining to information given here. So what is the information given? Stock is 4, debtors 3, cash 2. Add together, which gives you a current assets. Stock, debtors, cash are all the current assets. So current assets is equals to 4:3:2. Clear? There is a debtors information is given. So see, out of debtors information 45,000 ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು. So debtors the value ಏನಿದೆ? Ratio ಬಂದು 3 ಬಂದಿದೆ. So out of these information, 45,000 and 3 information, the given information, you can find out the stock and the cash. Okay. Which means you know only the ratio for the stock, that is 4. I'll do here, see. There is a stock, you don't know. You have to find out. There is the debtors. What is the debtor? 3 goes for 45,000. Okay. Multiply these two, cross multiply 45,000 into 4 divided by 3. Gives you stock as well as in the same way calculate the cash. Okay. So you will get 60,000 and 30,000 as the stock and the cash. See, there will be hint given like this. Either any of the things, if any information is missing by this, you need to find out by multiplying this itself. There is a debtors information is given and also there is a ratio pertaining to that is given. Sometimes they don't give you a debtor, sometimes they give you a stock. So stock and the ratio will be given. So out of these information, calculate the rest of the information by cross multiplication. Okay. So this is how the procedure goes on with the calculation of stock and the cash. So what will be the total? 45,000 was the debtors which was given. 60 you have computed. Cash is also you have computed. So total is 1,35,000 is the current asset. Clear? So what was the given information to calculate the current assets? You have calculated the current assets. And there is also current liability of rupees 50,000 is already given. So you can easily find out the current ratio, right? So current ratio is equals to current assets divided by current liabilities. Current assets is 1,35,000. So current liability is 50,000. So divided by 50, 1,35,000 divided by 50,000 gives you 2.7:1. So ideal ratio, you can also write here. Therefore, the ideal ratio of the current ratio was 2:1. But here it is 2.7:1. So the firm is under a better condition. Okay. So, and they have also asked you to find out the quick ratio. So quick ratio includes what? Quick assets divided by current liability. You know the current liability already. Now you have to find out the stock first. What is the stock? Because, so stock you have already computed. So what is the stock here? 60,000. So out of 1,35,000 minus 60,000, you will get the quick assets. So quick assets is 1,35,000 minus 60,000 divided by current liability is 50,000. So 1:5 for 1.5:1 is the quick ratio. Clear? Let's move on to the fifth problem. So here the current ratio is 3:1. Working capital is given 30,000. So what is working capital? Current assets minus current liability is a working capital. I'm repeating again. What is working capital? Current assets, what the changes between the current assets and the current liability indicates the working capital. Whether it is increase or whether it is decrease, it is going to indicate with the working capital only. Okay. So now you are required to calculate the current assets as well as the current liability. There is a current ratio given. Okay. So apply the formula of working capital. Working capital is equals to current assets minus current liability. We have already been computing from the fund flow the same thing, right? So here working capital is given 30,000. Current assets, I told you, current ratio is 3:1. What is a current ratio formula? Current assets divided by current liability. 3 goes for the current assets and 1 moves on with the current liability. So 3 minus 1. Clear? 3 goes on for the assets and 1 indicates the liability. Clear? 3 minus 1. So 30,000 is equals to 2, which means the firm is spending only 1 rupee for making a profit of 3, which is a income for a company. So 3 minus 2 will be 1, which is giving you 2. So 30,000 into 3. You have to find out what? Current assets as well as the current liability. What are the information you have got already? You have got the information of 30,000 into 2. That is working capital. You have 30,000 stands for the value of 2. The current assets goes on with the ratio 3. Current liability goes on with the ratio 1. Okay. So out of that you need to find out the current assets. So 30,000 get 2 ಆದರೆ 3 of current assets ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು values ಬರುತ್ತೆ? Cross multiply. So 30,000 into 3 divided by 2. Shall I repeat it? See, there is a value which is you have got for the 2 worth of assets. You got 30,000. You will be find outing for the 3. Where do you get this? Got this 3? You got the 3 in the current ratio. Okay. So current ratio you got. So current ratio 3 into 30,000 divided by 2. So which gives you 45,000 as the current assets. In the same manner, proceed with the current liability. So 1 is the value for the current liability. Okay. So for 1 you have to find out. So 2 ratio ಗೆ 30,000 andre 1 ratio ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರುತ್ತೆ current liability ಅಂತ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿತೀರಾ ನೀವು. Clear? Okay. So this is what you will be computing with the current assets as well as the current ratio and the quick ratio. So now let us understand with the concepts. So now there is a problem 6. So quick ratio is given as 1 is to 2 is to 1. 1.2 is to 1. Working capital is 1,80,000. Current ratio is 3 is to 1. You are asked to prepare the current assets. Required to prepare the current assets as well as to find out the current liabilities under stock. We have already calculated the current assets. You know to calculate when there is a working capital it changes or the working capital is given. So working capital is equals to current assets minus current liability. So 1,80,000 stands for the ratio 2. You have to find out the current ratio is given. So current ratio 3 minus 1. So what will be the value? The same value. For 2, 1,80,000. For 3, you have to find out what is the current asset. And for 1, you have to find out when there is 2 worth of 1,80,000. The same way current liability will be computed. Further, there is a quick ratio 1 is to 2, 1.2 is to 1. There is an information. So quick ratio is equals to current assets minus stock divided by current liability. 1.2. So current assets you have already calculated here. See, there is a link between. If you find out one, you can find out the other. If you don't find out the one, it is very difficult to find out the second one. So be careful while computing the values. Okay. So current assets is 2,70,000 minus stock divided by 90.2 will give you 1,08,000 is equals to 2,70,000 minus stock. So replace the value of stock to here. So stock goes here and this 1,80,000 goes on there. So it will be a minus. So minus stands the place remains the same. The 2,70,000 minus 1,08,000, the stock will be 1,62,000. So they have asked you to calculate the current assets. You have computed the current assets, current liability you have computed, and also the stock you have computed by applying the quick ratio formula. So whenever you are asked to find out the stock, the quick ratio will be given. By this itself, you can find out the stock. Sometimes there will be a information missing with the current assets. So current assets ಅಥವಾ current liability information miss ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ working capital changes ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಓಕೆನಾ? So working capital changes ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದಾಗ there will be certain stock information or debtors information. So by that you can find out the current assets. Clear? So now problem 7 goes on with the current ratio 2.5 is to 1, quick ratio 1.5 is to 1, stock 1,50,000. So net working capital. So what is the formula for working capital? Current assets minus current liability. See, and there is a quick assets. Quick assets includes what? Current assets minus stock. So stock is given there. So 1,50,000. So find out the stock, current assets minus quick assets. See, whenever there is the ratios given pertaining to this way, you can also apply the ratios and find out the stock. Stock 1,50,000 is equals to current ratio minus quick ratio asset. Okay. So current ratio formula is what? Current assets divided by current liability, which means 2.5 moves on for the current assets. 1 takes the value of the current liability. Clear? And here quick ratio takes the value 1.5 takes the quick assets and 1 takes the current liability. See, 1 and 1 remains the same because it is a current liability. Only with these two. This stands for the current assets and this stands for the quick assets. So stock is equals to current assets minus quick assets. 2.5 minus quick assets is 1. So by that you can find out 1,50,000 is equals to 1. Okay. So now find out in the same way 1 lakh, it is 1.5. Okay, not 1, it is 1.5. So 2.5 minus 1.5 gives you 1. Okay, so you have find out the worth of stock for 1. So therefore 1 lakh 51 ಆದರೆ the current assets you can find out now. 2.5 ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗುತ್ತೆ, 1.5 ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಕ್ವಿಕ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯಿರಿ by cross multiplying it. Apply the same thing to a current ratio. So current ratio, ನಿಮಗೆ current assets ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದೆ. So current assets is 3,75,000. You can easily find out the current liability. So 2.5 current liability is equals to 3,75,000. So divided by that, so you'll get the current liability of 1,50,000. Now there is a net working capital. Current assets ಕಂಡುಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ನೀವು. So current liability also you have found out it here. Now find out the difference with the current assets and the current liability. You get the net working capital. So 3,75,000 minus 1,50,000 gives you 2,25,000. Okay. In the same way, compute yourself with the problem number 8, 9. So ninth one we will discuss. Okay. So in the same way, you can proceed with the 8th problem. Same thing is given. So we shall see here. Following is the balance sheet of X company as at 30th June 2019 given. So equity share capital 1 lakh, reserves 25,000, profit and loss 40,000, secured loan 70, sundry creditors 50, bank overdraft 30, provision for taxation 20 given. Assets information, goodwill, fixed assets C. We don't need all this information unless we find out, we see what should be calculated here. Okay, the stock, sundry debtors, less provision for bad doubtful debts and advances, bank balance and cash in hand given. So what is the current ratio formula? Taking all the current assets and or taking all the current liability into consideration. So what is the liquid ratio? And it is also nothing but the quick ratio and the asset test ratio. It takes all the current assets except the stock as well as the prepaid expenses, but it considers all the current liability. And there is also an absolute liquid ratio to be found out. This is the new one that is required to be found out. See, find out the current ratio, take all the current assets, advances, bank balance, cash in hand. Be very particular. Fixed goodwill not appear, fixed assets will not appear, stock is the current assets, sundry debtor is a current assets, but except the reserve for doubtful, the value which is already been given. Take that except the reserve for doubtful debts. Even though it is mentioned in the adjustment, it has to be deducted and taken into consideration. Advances is given, bank balance is given, as well as the cash in hand given. So which gives you 1,35,000. So now look at the liability. This and all will not appear. Secured loan will not appear because it is only a short term is considered. Sundry creditors, bank overdraft, provision for taxation. So we'll give you 1 lakh. So 1,35,000 divided by 1 lakh. So in the same way, if you draw a column and if you write it, it will be very useful to understand it very clearly. Okay. So 1,35,000 divided by 1 lakh gives you 1.35 is to 1. Okay. So whenever there is no value also, you can just write it for the 1. Okay. So now quick ratio, quick assets divided by current liabilities, except the stock, okay, appears the here. So 10,000 plus 20,000 plus 16,000 plus 49,000, except the stock. It indicates the quick assets divided by all the current liability. 0.95 is to 1. Absolute liquid ratio, cash and bank, so which indicates the cash information and any short-term security, and it includes the current liability minus bank overdraft. This we have already discussed when I'm dealing with the formulas. So 46,000 divided by current liability was 1 lakh, bank overdraft is given here Any bank overdraft or any miscellaneous expenses, so that will be deducted here. So the miscellaneous incomes received in advance, so that will be deducted here. So 30,000, which gives you 0.66. Okay, so you can find out by keeping this as a hint, ninth problem as a hint, find out the 10th one. Okay, thank you. Hello all. In the previous class, we have discussed ascertaining the ratios, which was dealing with only the current asset ratio, quick assets, and as well as the asset test ratio. So today we will discuss about the turnover action or the activity ratios, which is also called as certain debt equity ratio. Along with that, we will learn about the proprietary ratio. Okay. So here in the previous in the previous video that we have discussed with this information, that is, for your understanding, a business has a current ratio of 3:1, and the quick ratio is 1.2:1 if the working capital. So here the working capital is given. So you need to calculate whenever there is a working capital, they will compulsory ask you to find out the current assets as well as the current liability. Because it is a hint, working capital is a hint to find out the current assets as well as the current liability. So, and also the value of stock is given. So working capital formula is current assets will be deducted from the current liability. So 1,80,000 as working capital is given. So I told you whenever there is a current ratio of 3:1, 3 goes on for the current assets and 1 goes on with the current liability. So 3 minus 1 gives you 2. So if 1,80,000 is for the ratio 2, then what will be the current assets for 3? So cross multiply, so you'll get the current assets. In the same way, proceed for the current liability, you'll get the same value. Okay. So now the 12th question also goes on with the same. Here the stock is given and current ratio and the quick ratio is given. If the excess of current assets over the quick assets are represented by stock is rupees 60,000. So they have specified stock as excess of current assets over the quick assets, which means current assets minus quick assets gives you the stock, obviously, right? So current assets includes all the assets, whereas the quick assets includes all the assets except the stock as well as except the prepaid expenses. So current assets minus quick assets gives you the stock. Stock information is given and current assets as well as the quick assets information is given. So as it is an asset, the first portion of the ratio goes on for the assets. Always remember the first, whichever the first portion is goes on for the assets. The second goes on for the liability. Here, so 3.5 minus 1.5 gives you 2 as a stock. So when 60,000 goes for the 2, you have to find out the quick assets. They have asked you to find out the quick assets. So find out what will be for 1.5 of assets. So quick assets goes on for the 45,000. In the same way, find out the current assets as well as the current liability. So to find out the current assets, so current assets, you all know it is 3.5. 3.5 divided by 2 multiplied with 60,000. Again, the current liability is also same. 1 divided by 2 with the same value of 60,000. Okay. The next one is very important to find out the debt equity ratio as well as the proprietary ratio. Okay. So the following figures are taken from the balance sheet of. Okay. So there is an information equity share capital. Before knowing these information, first know what should you need to be required to find out. So they've asked you to calculate the debt equity ratio. So always remember whenever they give the debt equity ratio, the debt equity ratio considers the debt. Okay. So debt is nothing but the debentures. Okay. Which will be divided with all the equity. Clear? All the equity or all the shareholders fund except the miscellaneous expenses as well as the losses. Okay. So this you have to find out. Know what is debt now. So 6% mortgage debenture. So this 50,000 is a debt. The first portion of information for the debt equity ratio is calculated. Now, to see towards what is the equity. So equity includes all the capitals, general reserves, as well as reserve for contingency, except whenever there is any current liabilities given, except any expenses or losses which is given. So which will be deducted here. So any current liability purely ignored, considering only equity information into consideration. And whenever there is any losses incurred, preliminary expenses is what? It is a kind of expenditure which is met before establishing any kind of business. So it is a kind of loss. So that should be deducted out of the equity. Here, so now we shall see. So equity share capital is given, 6% preference share capital, general reserves, reserve for contingency. So take this, these all comes for the equity. So which is also nothing but all the liabilities to outsiders, which is long term. Whenever they mention it as short term, that information will not be considered here. So less preliminary expenses 5,000. So you got the long term equity as 2,05,000. So now there is a 6% debenture, so 50,000. These two, by keeping these two information, you can find out the debt equity ratio. So debt is 50,000 and equity or the long liabilities to outsiders that you have already calculated by considering all the equity along with the reserves except the miscellaneous expenses. So deducted. So you'll get the 2,05,000 as the equity. So divided, now you got the debt equity ratio as 0.24. Okay. Now, so 14th one, from the following information, here also you need to calculate the debt equity ratio and one more added to it, you are required to find out the proprietary ratio. Okay. So as the name suggests, it is a proprietary ratio. So proprietary includes the shareholders, which will be taken into consideration the assets. So debt, we have already discussed. The debt considers the debt along with the equity. You can also write it as debt divided by equity formula. Whereas the proprietary ratio considers the shareholders fund along with all the assets, total assets. There is no segregation here as the current assets and the fixed assets. The total assets will be taken into consideration. And ratio of total assets to debts. They have specified here total assets to debts. You need to calculate the one more as one of the calculation here. So now find out the debt equity information. So first of all, when you look into a debt equity ratio, see whether there is any debt. Debts is given as, instead of debentures, so here they are given it as long-term borrowings. So all the long-term borrowings will be taken here. So long-term borrowings as 1,50,000. Apart from this, now see what are the equity which are given for outsiders or a long-term. 3 lakhs. So equity share capital is taken. 6% share capital is taken. As well as general reserve, they have already deducted and given you 1 lakh. So 3, 4, 5. So 5 lakh will be the equity or long liabilities to outsiders. So which gives you debt equity ratio as 0.30:1. So debt equity ratio goes on for this way. And now proprietary ratio. Proprietary ratio, I told you, it considers all the shareholders fund along with the total assets. So which are the shareholders fund? So when you find out the debt equity ratio, you can find out the proprietary ratio. See here, there is an equity or the liability of 5 lakhs. So which moves on for the shareholders fund, 5 lakhs. And total assets is already given here. So total assets 7 lakh. So consider 7 lakh. So proprietary ratio is 0.71:1. Now it is also, you have to find out the ratio of total assets to debts. So total assets to debts you are going to find out. So total assets is given already 7 lakh and debts you have computed and taken into consideration as long-term borrowings as 1,50,000. So that becomes the debts. So 4.67:1. Okay. So now, see, there is a discount on issue of share. There is a discount issue that will be deducted. Okay. See here, equity share capital is given, 6% shares debenture, general reserve. Debenture will become the debt for find outing the debt equity ratio. Debentures along with there is also a long term bank loan. So 1,50,000 plus 2 lakhs. So that should be considered here. Not only the debenture, here debentures along with the bank loan or the long term will be considered. 2 lakh plus 1,50,000 gives you debt equity ratio. And you have to find out the proprietary ratio also. And a discount on issue of shares will be deducted. Out of what? Out of all the equities. So share capital 3 lakhs plus 2 lakhs plus 1 lakhs minus 50,000 will give you the equity. Clear? So now proprietary ratio considers all the shareholders' funds along with the total assets. So total assets is given here, right? So fixed assets and the current assets is given. Add together becomes the total assets. Clear? And there is a total assets to debts. Total assets you have computed. Debt is 2 lakhs plus 1,50,000. So 3,50,000 is the debts. Take this as an assignment and do it, okay? Now, from the following, calculate the stock turnover ratio. This is a kind of other ratio that we are going to discuss. Till now, we have discussed with the current ratio, quick assets ratio, asset test ratio, and still moving on with the absolute turnover ratio that we have discussed, absolute liquidity ratio, and debt equity ratio, proprietary ratio, along with debt to assets or total assets to debt we have discussed. Clear? Now, there is a stock turnover ratio that should be computed. So, stock turnover, whenever there is a stock turnover ratio, it considers only two information. One is the cost of goods sold. What is cost of goods sold? Cost of goods sold includes all the direct along with all the informations, and any purchases or any sales will be deducted. So see the information whichever is given here. So stock, and also it considers the average inventory. Average inventory means opening stock plus closing stock, which will be divided by 2. So total sales is given, written inwards. So written inwards is also nothing but the sales returns. So sales returns. So sales return should be deducted. So 3,50,000 minus 20,000. Stock at the beginning of the year is given, and also stock at the end of the year is given. So these two are the information for find outing the average inventory. And also there is a gross profit for the year 66,000. So what do we need here? The stock turnover ratio considers the cost of goods sold. So see the information which are given here. Sales is given. Out of the sales, we need only the cost information. So sales minus gross profit minus returns inwards. Clear? So sales is 3,50,000, gross profit as 66, and return inwards as 20,000. So now 2,64,000 is the cost of goods sold. Be very particular to find out the stock turnover ratio, because here the sales includes all the costs as well as the profit. So we are deducting the gross profit here. Sales is equals to You can also take it as hint. Sales is equals to cost plus profit plus profit. As we require only the cost, so sales will be minus with the profit. So sales minus profit, and also there is a information of returns, which means sales returns information is given here. So for that reason, that will be deducted. So we'll give you the cost of goods sold as 2,64,000 here. And next is to find out the average inventory. So average inventory, there is an opening stock as well as the closing stock, which will be divided with the 2 to get the average inventory as 33,000. So divide this one cost of goods sold along with the average inventory. So always remember the stock turnover ratio should be represented based on the number of times it occurs. Okay, it should be represented through times as only. Next is, following particulars are available from the accounts of Mr. Rakesh. So see, before moving on to it, you need to find out the stock turnover ratio. So stock turnover ratio includes what? The cost of goods sold information along with the average inventory. Okay. And you are required also to find out the average holding period as well as inventory coverage period. This we have discussed. These two are the new concept here. Now see here. So what do we need? Cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold includes the opening stock, direct expenses, purchases, as well as any direct expenses it may be, and it also includes the closing stock. So here, see, whenever there is the direct expenses, indirect expenses will not be considered. So which are the direct expenses? In case any carriage inwards is incurred, so carriage inward will be the direct expenses. Okay, whatever the item that you record in the trading account all comes under the direct expenses. So opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenses will be deducted from the closing stock. So interest paid is not appearing here because it is an indirect expenses here. So cost of goods sold information you came to know. See, there is no stock here. There is opening stock as well as the closing stock. You can easily find out the opening stock and the closing stock. So divided by 2, you get the 12,000. So stock turnover ratio is 9 times. Clear? So now, they've asked you to find out average holding period. What actually this average holding period is? Till how many days or how many here the stock will be retained in the business. So that is to be found out only through a information of stock turnover ratio. So ನೀವು ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಟರ್ನ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಆವರೇಜ್ ಹೋಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So what actually this average holding period, for how many number of years that the stock will be retained, or for how many number of days the stock will be retained to produce the work, will consist under the average holding period. So average holding period includes 365 number of years divided by stock turnover ratio. So 41 days is the average holding period. So stock turnover ratio that you have computed 9 times. So divided by 9. So inventory coverage period is also nothing but 365 divided by stock turnover ratio. So it can also be indicated as either 41 days, either 45 days. 365 divided by 9. Okay. So now there is one more question. So these two seems to be the same. Inventory coverage period and average holding period seems to be same, but calculation is one and the same. But the meaning wise, if you take average holding period is for how many days the stock will be held in the company. Inventory coverage period is nothing but for how many days the stock will be entered for production process. So that is also saved by calculating the stock turnover ratio. Okay. So now in the 18th problem. So there is a cost of goods sold of 5 lakhs. Opening stock as 40,000, closing stock as 60,000. Find out the inventory ratio, inventory coverage period. So inventory ratio is also nothing but the stock ratio, stock turnover ratio. So find out the cost. So it is very clear. Cost of goods sold is given directly. Opening stock as well as closing stock is given directly. No need to worry. And whatever the information you get, so that will be divided by 365. So 365 divided by whatever the value that you get it for the stock turnover ratio gives you the inventory coverage period. Clear? Now, from the given information, calculate stock turnover ratio. So stock turnover ratio. So if you're getting two confusions with the many number of formulas, have only the hint and study, okay? Whenever there is a stock turnover ratio, stock, it takes the average stock. So what is average stock? Opening stock and the closing stock. And also it takes the cost of goods sold information, that's all. Okay. So here, this is a kind of tricky question. See here, sales is given as 3 lakhs. Gross profit is 25% on cost. See, we know only the sales. So consider sales as, so profit is 25. So consider the sales as 100. So 25% on cost you need to calculate. You need to calculate the cost here first. And further, opening stock was 1/3 of the value of the closing stock. Closing stock was 30% on sales. So find out here the cost of goods sold. Formula to calculate the cost of goods sold is sales minus gross profit. So gross profit is 25% on cost. Let the cost be. So take the cost as 100. So profit is given here as 25%. So 100 plus 25 gives you 125 is the sales. When sales is 125, so profit will be 25 profit. So therefore gross profit is on sales, calculate 3 lakhs divided by 25 divided by 125. So 60,000 will be the profit. Now you know the sales. Sales as 3 lakhs and you have computed the profit 60,000. So 2,40,000 is the cost of goods sold. So closing stock is given as opening stock was 1/3 of the value of opening stock. So find out here cost of sales, you know, closing stock is 3 lakhs into 30% of the value of closing stock. So 30% gives you 90,000 and there is opening stock. Out of this opening stock, see, where is that 30%? Closing stock was 30% on sales. On sales, take the 30%. So directly you get the answer as 90,000. So now with the hint of this, they have told you opening stock was 1/3 of the value of closing stock. So find out the closing stock, then apply 1/3 value. So which gives you 30,000. So therefore, average inventory. So you are required to find out the stock turnover ratio. Or it is also nothing but the average inventory. So find out by applying the stock turnover ratio. Cost of goods sold is calculated and also you have to find out the opening as well as the closing stock. So take the cost of goods sold as well as the average inventory. Average inventory is opening stock. So that is 90,000 plus 30,000 divided by 2, which is equals to 90,000 plus 30,000 divided by, so which is equal to 1,05,000. So 1,05,000 is the average inventory. Okay. So now you have to find out the stock turnover ratio. Stock turnover ratio, which is equal to, so cost of goods sold is 2,40,000. So 2,40,000 divided by, so average inventory is 1,05,000. So which gives you 5,000 is 2.29, or it can be also written as 2 times. That's okay. Thank you. Hello all. In the previous videos, we have discussed with the current assets activity as well as the absolute liquidity ratio. Along with that, we have also discussed with the proprietary ratio and the debt equity ratio. Okay. So today we will discuss about the turnover ratio, which is also called as the activity ratio. So the main terms turnover always deals with the sales activity as well as the purchases activity. Okay. So here in the case of the calculation purpose, you will be asked to calculate, first one is debtors turnover ratio. Okay. And the next one is, out of the debtors turnover ratio, you need to calculate the average collection period. I'll tell you what is average collection period later. Okay. And you should also compute the creditors turnover ratio along with that, which is also called as the payable turnover ratio. Along with that, average collection allowed. So these are the four kinds that will be computed to find out the turnover ratios. Okay. So here in the case of the problem, they've asked you to compute the debtors turnover ratio as well as average collection period. Before calculating, know what actually this debtors turnover ratio is and what actually this average collection period is. Here, until unless you don't know the meaning and you don't know the exact formula to be applied, it is impossible to go ahead with the turnover ratios. Okay. So what is debtors turnover ratio? So debtors turnover ratio is how quickly or how rapidly the collection will be received from the receivables. Okay. In what duration you will be reached with certain sales will be computed here. And one more, the thing that should be remembered is, always in the case of debtors turnover ratio as well as the creditors turnover ratio, you will be taken into consideration either the credit sales and the credit purchases. Clear? Only the credit sales and the credit purchases is taken into consideration. Should not consider the information which is given as the cash sales or the cash purchase. Okay. So here, so debtors turnover ratio includes all the net credit sales. So what is debtors turnover ratio? How rapidity of collection which will be received from the receivables will be found out. Okay. So, and you will be computed along with that average accounts receivables. So average accounts receivable is very easy. So they'll be giving you with the debtors. So what is accounts receivable? Accounts receivable is also called as the bills receivables In turn, in a general meaning, it is also sometimes called as the debtors. Clear? Sometimes bills receivables in the beginning and bills receivables at the end will be given. Sometimes debtors in the beginning as well as total debtors at the end will be given. So you need to take either that information, either this information into consideration for average accounts receivables. Clear? So here, make a note, total debtors in the beginning is given, along with the total debtors at the end is given. So calculator divided by 2, you'll get the value of the average accounts receivable. So what is the average accounts receivable gives you 50,000. Okay. And along with that, you should also compute the debtors turnover ratio. That is, you should know what actually this net credit sales is. Sometimes total sales will be given and cash sales will be given. Credit sales will not be given at that time. You should also find out the cash sales. So total sales minus cash sales gives you a credit sales. You need to find out the credit sales, not the cash. So total sales minus cash sales gives you the credit sales. So see in the question, so cash sales during the year. You don't require the cash information, so ignore this information. Credit sales is given as 2,70,000. So if there is any sales returns, that should be reduced. Okay. So as it is a net, it is not the gross. If it is the gross, then you would have taken 2,70,000 into consideration. As it is a net credit sales minus the sales from the sales return. So what is the sales return here? 2,70,000 minus 20,000 gives you 2,50,000. So average accounts receivables you have computed as 50,000. So 5 times. So collection of the debtors, that is out of the sales made by the company, they can collect the amount 5 times. Clear? The rapidity of the collection can be made from the receivables with how many times? 5 times. So 5 ಸಾರಿ ಅವರು collections ನ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಬೇಕು with the information of debtors turnover ratio. So when the term debtors includes or moves on only with the sales information, remember debtors only goes on with the sales information. Here as it is a debtors turnover ratio, especially it considers only the credit sales information, not the cash sales. Clear? And you are also asked to prepare the, find out the average collection period. Okay, it is not college, it is collection period. So collection period, so average collection period takes into consideration your debtors turnover ratio. That is the part of debtors turnover ratio, it considers the average accounts receivables. Why it takes the average accounts receivables? Know what actually this average collection period is. Average collection period is nothing but it is one of the average period which will be granted to customers as it is a debtors. As it is a debtors, it deals with the customer's information. Whenever it is a creditors, it deals with the supplier's information. Okay. So it indicates the average period which will be granted to the customers by the company. So in what period, in how many number of days or how many number of months, the collection can be made out of the sales made. ಒಂದು ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ನ ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ ನೀವು, ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀರಾ ಅಥವಾ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ನ ಎಷ್ಟು ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಮಂತ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಪೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಡ್ಯೂರೇಷನ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಆವರೇಜ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್. ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್? ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಲೈಕ್ it is also called as sometimes like a EMI. Okay. So within what duration you will be settled with such amount. So that can be computed with the help of average collection period only. Okay. So average collection period always takes the 365. That is number of days in a year divided by debtors turnover ratio is 5 times. So divided with the 5. So 73 days. Within 73 days, the amount which will be settled to the 73 days is the period which is granted to the customers for clearing their sales. amount. Okay. So now, moving on to the concept of creditors turnover ratio as well as average payment period. Okay. So from the following information, calculate debtors turnover ratio, average collection period, payable turnover ratio, and average payment ratio. See, listen, whenever there is a debtors turnover ratio, see only the two information is given or not. Receivables is given, opening and the closing is given in the case of receivables, along with the credit sales is given. In the case of payable turnover ratio, see only the two information. Bills payable information is given, opening as well as closing bills payable. Sometimes they don't give you opening and closing, directly the amount will be given, no worries with that. And there is a information of credit purchases. Okay. And out of the value that you get, that will be divided with the number of days. Okay. So here, see the information. Sales rupees 8,75,000 is given. Creditors 90,000. Remember, there is only a sales information here. Bills receivables rupees 48,000. Bills payable 52. Purchases 4,20,000. Debtors is given as 59,000. Okay. So what do we need? Debtors turnover ratio. See, they have not specified what actually these sales is. Whenever they don't specify any information, whether it is whenever there is no information of cash sales or the credit sales, consider the whole amount as the credit sale. Okay. So average accounts receivables will be, so bills receivables is given as 48,000. Okay. So here in the case of debtors, they have given the bills receivables as well as the debtors. Sometimes listen, they'll be given you with the bills, opening bills receivables as well as opening debtors and closing debtors, as well as opening bills receivables and closing bills receivables. All that information should be taken into consideration. Okay. Here there is 48,000, along with that debtors is 59,000. So bills receivable as well as bills receivable 48,000 as well as debtors for 59,000 is added together to get the information of accounts average accounts receivables. So gives you 1,07,000. Sometimes opening debtors and closing debtors, sometimes bills receivables and closing bills receivables given. Sometimes these informations will be given. You need to add these information. Clear? So it comes to around 8.18 times. So average collection period, I told you 365 will be divided with the debtors turnover ratio. Payable turnover ratio, I told you you have to consider the net credit purchases. See whether there is any credit or the cash purchases information. No, whenever they don't specify anything, these purchases itself becomes the net credit purchases. Okay. So take this information as net credit purchases, and average accounts payable is also same. Creditors will be added with the bills payables. Clear? So you'll get some around as 2.96 times. So average payable period will be 365 divided by 2.96. So do not round it off, take as it is, however the value or number of times you get. Okay. So what actually this average payable period is, it is a period which will be granted by the supplier to the company. Okay. For the thing that you have purchased, what is the duration or what is the number of days or how many number of months you will be settled with the certain amount. So that will be granted by the supplier here. Okay. So which comes to around 123 days. Clear? So now calculate the gross profit ratio based on the following information. Problem number 22nd. So you need to compute the gross profit ratio. Be very particular with the calculation. Okay. Cash sales is given as 25% of so total sales. See now whether total sales is given or not. Purchases is given 2,76,000. Okay. Credit sales is given as 2,40,000. They have not specified the total sales. Clear? And excess of closing stock over opening stock is rupees 20,000. Make it as very important note, this one. This kind of question will be asked for your 6 marks. Okay. So what is the gross profit ratio formula? It takes the gross profit along with the sales into consideration, as the sales information is missing here. They have not specified anywhere what exactly the sales is or the total sales is. So consider, out of the percentage given, consider total sales as 100. So cash sales is given as 25% of total sales. So 25 minus it, which comes to around credit sales as 75. Clear? So for when the total sales is 100, 75 is credit sales. So 100 ಗೆ 75 credit sales ಆದರೆ 25 ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿತೀರ. Okay. So 25, 75, 2,40,000 into 100 divided by 75, which gives you 3,20,000 of the total sales. As we require the total sales, this 75 as well as 100 will be taken into consideration. Okay. So here, in the case of this information, what is the information that will be computing? So you got 2,40,000, 2,40,000 into, so you need the total sales to the full amount of 100. So 2,40,000 into 100 divided by what is the information is given? The credit sales information is given. So 75% ke 2,40,000 anta kottidare. So make it as divided by 75, you get 3,20,000. Clear? Don't take 25 as the value because you have to compute the cash sales here. Okay. So 25% goes for the cash sales. So total sales we need 3,20,000. So now the gross profit calculation. So still you have not computed with the gross profit. So sales you have come across with the 3,20,000. And there is one statement here, excess of closing stock over opening stock is rupees 20,000. So add back that information. Adding excess of closing stock over opening stock is 20,000. So you don't know what exactly this opening stock is here. So 3,40,000, and out of the sales, purchases will be deducted. You get 2,76,000, and which comes to gross profit as sales minus cost, or sales minus purchases gives you the gross profit. In the same way you need to do it. So 64,000. So gross profit calculation is profit divided by sales into 100. Profit you have calculated 64,000, and the sales you have also calculated as 3,20,000, which comes around 20%. This ratio is also important, gross profit ratio. Here, and make a note, this is as one of the very important adjustment. Whenever there is any excess, so which will be deducted. Whenever there is reduction of closing stock, so which will be minus. Clear?